The city of Manhattan, New York, was glowing that night. Lights shimmered across glass towers. Luxury cars lined the streets. Inside a private rooftop restaurant, soft music played. At a quiet corner table sat Arden Vale. She wore a simple black dress. No diamonds. No attention. Just calm beauty. Across from her sat her husband, Kellen Reese. Sharp suit. Expensive watch. Ambitious eyes. He didn't smile. He didn't hold her hand. Instead, he placed a thin envelope on the table. Arden's heart slowed. "What's this?" she asked softly. Kellen didn't hesitate. "Divorce papers." The word hung in the air. The music around them continued. Waiters walked past. The city sparkled. But her world went still. "Divorce," she repeated quietly. Kellen leaned back. "I've moved on, Arden." She blinked slowly. "To who?" she asked. A voice answered from behind her. "You already know." Arden turned. Standing there was Seelith Monroe, Kellen's boss at Monroe Crest Holdings, one of the most powerful real estate empires in New York. Tall, elegant, confident. Seelith stepped closer and placed her hand lightly on Kellen's shoulder. Arden felt her chest tighten. "You," she whispered. Kellen nodded without shame. "Yes. Seelith and I are getting married next month." The words hit harder than the divorce papers. Arden swallowed slowly. "You work for her," she said calmly. "Exactly," Kellen replied. "And now I'll rise faster." Seelith smiled slightly. "You were holding him back," she added smoothly. Arden stared at her. Holding him back? She had supported Kellen when he was an entry-level project manager. She encouraged him through long nights and failed bids. She listened when he doubted himself. But she said nothing. Kellen pushed the envelope toward her. "I need you to sign tonight," he said. "We have an announcement coming." Arden looked down at the papers. Her hands did not shake. Her voice did not rise. She only asked one question. "Is this what you truly want?" Kellen didn't hesitate. "Yes." Seelith squeezed his shoulder proudly. Arden slowly picked up the pen. Around them, Manhattan continued glowing like nothing was wrong. She signed. Calmly. Kellen exhaled in relief. "Thank you for not making this messy," he said casually. Seelith smiled in victory. "You'll land on your feet," she added. "Somewhere smaller." Arden stood up slowly. She looked at both of them. "I hope you both get exactly what you deserve," she said softly. Then she walked away. Outside, cold New York air brushed against her face. She did not cry immediately. She walked 2 blocks before her phone rang. The screen showed a private number. She answered quietly. "Yes." A deep, respectful voice spoke. "Ms. Vale, the board has finalized tomorrow's global restructuring meeting." She closed her eyes briefly. "And Seelith Monroe?" she asked. "She will attend. As requested." Arden nodded slowly. "Good. Make sure the documents are ready." "Yes, She ended the call. Above her, the skyscraper of Monroe Crest Holdings stood tall. The company Kellen worked for. The empire Seelith believed she controlled. Neither of them knew the truth. Arden Vale was not just a quiet wife. She was the hidden majority owner of Monroe Crest Holdings, a trillion-dollar real estate empire built by her grandfather decades ago. Seelith was only a hired executive. Kellen was only an employee. And tomorrow morning, the power in Manhattan would shift. But for now, Arden walked alone into the night. Calm, silent, unshaken. Because sometimes the quietest person in the room owns everything. Morning light poured over Manhattan. Traffic moved fast. Coffee shops buzzed. Inside the glass tower of Monroe Crest Holdings, executives prepared for a major restructuring meeting. On the 62nd floor, the boardroom doors stood closed. Inside, Seelith Monroe adjusted her blazer. Confident. Controlled. Certain. Kellen Reese sat beside her, proud and excited. After today, he whispered, we'll be unstoppable. Seelith smiled faintly. This restructuring will increase my executive authority, she replied. And you'll lead the new development division. Kellen felt powerful. He had divorced his quiet wife. He had aligned himself with the boss. He believed he had chosen the winning side. He did not know he was sitting in someone else's chair. At exactly 9 a.m., the board members stood as the door opened. Kellen turned casually and froze. Arden Vale walked in. Cream suit. Hair neatly tied back. Calm expression. Not emotional. Not angry. Just steady. Seelith frowned. What is she doing here? She asked coldly. Kellen stood halfway up. Arden, this is a private executive meeting. Arden didn't look at him. She walked to the head of the long glass table. The chairman, Garrick Solon, cleared his throat. Good morning, Ms. Vale. Every board member nodded respectfully. Seelith's face tightened. What is the meaning of this? She demanded. Garrick placed a document in front of Seelith. Monroe Crest Holdings is majority owned by the Vale Family Trust. Control rights transfer directly to Ms. Arden Vale. The room fell silent. Kellen blinked rapidly. Seelith laughed once, sharp and confused. That's impossible, she said. I've been CEO for 8 years. Yes, Garrick replied calmly. You were appointed. Arden finally spoke. My grandfather founded Monroe Crest. My family kept ownership private to allow professional management. Kellen's heart began to pound. He stared at Arden like he had never truly seen her. You own Monroe Crest, he whispered. Yes. One word. Quiet. Final. Seelith's hands tightened on the table. Why was I never informed? She asked sharply. Arden met her eyes. Because ownership and management are not the same thing. The air in the room shifted. Seelith suddenly looked less powerful. Kellen felt his confidence collapsing. He remembered last night. You were holding him back. You'll land somewhere smaller. Now he understood. Arden had never been small. She had chosen to live simply. Garrick continued. Today's restructuring is owner-initiated. Seelith's face paled. What restructuring? Arden opened a folder calmly. Leadership review. A screen lit up behind her. Performance metrics appeared. Risk exposure summaries. Executive compensation comparisons. Seelith's breath slowed. Are you questioning my leadership? She asked. Arden answered calmly. I am evaluating it. Kellen shifted in his seat. He suddenly felt like an outsider. Arden continued. The company expanded rapidly. Profits increased. But risk concentration also increased. She turned to Seelith. Executive bonuses tripled while long-term infrastructure reserves decreased. The board members murmured. Seelith stiffened. That was strategic growth. Or aggressive expansion, Arden replied gently. Silence. Kellen looked at Seelith. For the first time, she didn't look untouchable. She looked exposed. Arden closed the folder. Effective immediately, Monroe Crest Holdings will transition into a dual oversight model. Seelith's voice sharpened. You can't just change executive authority overnight. Arden looked at her steadily. I can. The room felt heavy. Kellen's phone buzzed. News notification. Vale Family Trust confirmed as majority owner of Monroe Crest Holdings. The information was already spreading. Investors were watching. Seelith slowly leaned back in her chair. So what happens to me? She asked quietly. Arden answered without hesitation. You remain CEO, under review. Then she looked at Kellen. And you remain an employee. The words landed hard. Not fired. Not promoted. Just ordinary. Kellen felt small. Arden gathered her papers. Power is not loud, she said softly. It is steady. Then she stood and walked out. Behind her, the boardroom felt colder. Seelith stared at the documents in front of her. Kellen stared at the empty chair where his wife had just sat. He had married the boss. But the real power had just revealed itself. And this was only the beginning. The news spread across Manhattan before lunchtime. Financial blogs posted headlines. Investors called emergency meetings. Employees whispered in hallways. Vale family revealed as hidden owner. Executive authority under review. Inside Monroe Crest Holdings, tension filled the air. Seelith Monroe locked herself inside her office. Her reflection in the glass window looked different. Not confident. Not in control. Just uncertain. Her phone kept ringing. Board members. Investors. Advisors. She ignored most of them. Meanwhile, Kellen Reese sat alone at his desk. People who once congratulated him avoided eye contact. The promotion he expected? Gone. The power he believed he secured? Gone. He replayed everything in his mind. The divorce dinner. The smug smile. The signed papers. He had thrown away the woman who owned the empire. His phone buzzed. A short message from Seelith. Meet me in my office. Now. Inside her office, Seelith stood stiffly behind her desk. Kellen walked in carefully. This is bad, she said immediately. Very bad. He swallowed. What are we going to do? Seelith looked at him sharply. We, she repeated. He hesitated. Yes, we. She walked toward the window slowly. I built this company's public face, she said. Now I find out I was just managing someone else's empire. Kellen said nothing. Seelith turned toward him. And you, she added, divorced the owner. The words stung. He lowered his eyes. I didn't know, he whispered. That's the problem, she replied coldly. You never know what matters. Silence filled the office. Then she said something unexpected. I'm not going to fight her. Kellen looked up quickly. What? Seelith exhaled. She didn't remove me. She didn't humiliate me publicly. She placed oversight. Her voice softened slightly. That means she's not reckless. She's strategic. Kellen felt something sink inside him. He had expected revenge. Public embarrassment. Termination. But Arden did none of that. She simply adjusted power. Seelith walked back to her desk. I'm going to meet her privately, she said. And I suggest you do the same. Later that evening, Arden Vale stood alone on a private terrace overlooking Central Park. The wind moved gently through her hair. She looked peaceful. Not angry. Not triumphant. Just thoughtful. A soft voice interrupted her. Arden. She turned. It was Kellen. He looked different. No sharp posture. No proud smile. Just humility. I didn't know, he said quietly. She nodded once. I know. He stepped closer. Why didn't you tell me? She looked at him carefully. Would it have changed who you are? She asked softly. He had no answer. The city lights flickered below them. I thought I was rising, he admitted. I thought I needed someone more powerful beside me. Arden's expression did not change. You needed respect, she said. Not status. The words settled heavy between them. He looked down. I made a mistake. Yes, she replied gently. Silence. He swallowed. Is there anything I can do? Arden looked at him, not with love, not with hate. Just clarity. You can grow, she said. But you cannot undo. Those words broke something inside him. For the first time, he realized the divorce was not his victory. It was his loss. Behind them, Seelith watched from the doorway. She had come to speak with Arden too. But hearing that conversation changed something inside her. She stepped forward slowly. Arden, she said calmly, I would like to continue leading Monroe Crest. Under your oversight. Arden nodded once. Lead well, she replied. Seelith glanced briefly at Kellen. Then she walked away. Not devastated. Not dramatic. Just aware. The real power in the room was never loud. It was quiet. And Kellen finally understood. He had walked away from the empire itself. 6 months later, Manhattan was still shining. Monroe Crest Holdings was stronger than ever. New projects launched across New York, Miami, and Dallas. Investors felt secure. Employees felt stable. At the top of the tower, Arden Vale worked quietly. No loud interviews. No flashy headlines. No public revenge. Just steady leadership. Under her oversight, the company became more disciplined. Risk levels dropped. Long-term reserves increased. Share value climbed higher than before. Seelith Monroe adjusted to the new structure. She was still CEO. But now she reported directly to Arden. At first, it felt like a loss of power. But slowly, Seelith realized something. Oversight did not weaken her. It protected her. Her decisions became smarter. Her confidence became grounded. She stopped chasing applause. She started building legacy. One afternoon, she stood in Arden's office. "You could have removed me," Seelith said honestly. "Why didn't you?" Arden looked up from her tablet. "Because leadership is not about ego," she replied. "It's about responsibility." Seelith nodded slowly. For the first time, she respected the woman she once underestimated. Kellen Reese, however, lived a different reality. He still worked at Monroe Crest. But his title remained the same. No promotion. No special access. No shortcuts. He earned his salary like everyone else. People treated him normally, not badly, not highly. Just ordinary. The attention he once loved disappeared. One evening, he stayed late in the office. Through the glass wall, he saw Arden walking with investors. She moved calmly, confident, composed. She wasn't trying to impress anyone. She didn't need to. He felt a weight in his chest. Not because she owned the empire, but because she never used it to hurt him. She could have destroyed his career. She didn't. She could have embarrassed Seelith publicly. She didn't. She simply adjusted the balance. And that quiet strength humbled him more than revenge ever could. Weeks later, Monroe Crest announced a new billion-dollar housing initiative focused on long-term community stability. Arden stood at the podium during the press conference. Cameras flashed. Reporters leaned forward. "Ms. Vale," one asked, "how does it feel to reclaim public leadership of your grandfather's empire?" She paused. Then she answered simply, "I never lost it. I was just waiting." The room fell silent. That answer traveled across financial networks within hours. Back at his apartment, Kellen watched the interview replay. He whispered softly to himself, "I divorced stability for status." The truth hit him fully. He didn't lose a job. He didn't lose money. He lost a woman who was steady, loyal, and powerful in ways he never understood. And the worst part? She did not look angry. She looked free. One evening, Arden stood alone on her terrace again. The same place where Kellen once tried to explain himself. The city lights blinked beneath her. She closed her eyes for a moment. She felt peace. Not because she won, but because she stayed true to herself. Some people chase power. Some people are power. And the difference is character. If this story taught you something, type respect over status in the comments right now. If you believe quiet strength is more powerful than loud pride, like this video before you scroll. And if you want more emotional, shocking, and powerful stories like this, subscribe and turn on notifications, because the next story will challenge everything you think about power and loyalty. Remember this. Never trade loyalty for position. Never trade character for status. And never underestimate the quiet one in the room.